Ever cram with classmates before a big exam and kind of convince yourself that it's totally the same as studying solo?
Yeah.
Today's deep dive
Mhm.
tackles that head on, but in the high stakes world of medical school.
Oh, wow.
We're diving into some research
Okay.
from the Mohammed bin Rashid University of Medicine and Health Sciences,
Okay.
MBRU for short,
Right.
to see if peer learning really holds up when future doctors are the ones, swapping notes.
Yeah, and we're not talking about, like, casual study sessions here.
Right.
This research went deep, observing third-year med students
Wow.
as they integrated peer learning into mastering physical exam skills. The hands-on stuff,
Yeah.
listening to hearts, testing
The
reflexes.
real deal. So no pressure while your study buddy pokes your knee with a hammer, right? What I find fascinating is MBRU didn't just slap a grade on it and call it a day.
Right.
They combined student performance with surveys on their experience
Okay.
and in-depth observations of the learning sessions themselves.
Exactly. It's like that saying.
Yeah.
The more you look, the more you see.
Right.
This multifaceted approach gives us a much richer picture
Yeah.
than just assuming exam scores tell the whole story.
Okay, so let's start with the students themselves.
Okay.
Were they gung-ho about swapping solo study time for teamwork?
Surprisingly, they were mostly on board,
Okay.
at least initially.
Yeah.
The research showed that the majority of students felt like peer learning was a valuable use of their time
Okay.
and actually helped them to improve their clinical skills.
Makes sense. Two heads are better than one, right?
Okay.
Especially when those heads are poking and prodding each other
Right.
to learn those tricky physical exam techniques. But didn't the study also say that they weren't exactly clamoring to do it in every single class?
Right. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
While students gave peer learning a thumbs up for this specific skill set,
Okay.
they were hesitant about using it more broadly.
So the million-dollar question is why?
Right.
Was it something about the hands-on nature of physical exams that lent itself well to peer learning? Or did the format need some tweaking to be effective for other aspects of a medical education?
To answer that, we need to look at what the researchers observed during those peer learning sessions because they noticed some intriguing patterns
Okay.
that might explain this hesitation.
So we left off with this, little bit of a mystery, right?
Mm.
We've got these med students, they're saying, okay, peer learning, yeah, it's cool.
Right.
But they're not exactly like, sign me up, coach, I'm ready for more.
Yeah, and
What's the deal?
well, picture this.
Okay.
You walk into a room full of med students, textbooks are open, stethoscopes are scattered about.
Okay.
You'd expect this buzz of focused energy, right?
I would think so, yeah, for sure.
But the researchers observed something really interesting.
Okay, don't leave me hanging.
Okay.
Was it a medical school dance party?
Not quite a dance party.
Okay.
They actually noted a distinct lack of enthusiasm
Real?
during these sessions. Yeah.
Huh.
Almost like the students were going through the motions, even though they reported finding the sessions valuable.
So it's like showing up for the group project meeting, but secretly wishing you were catching up on the latest episode of your favorite show instead.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that? Why the disconnect?
So one theory is that it boils down to stakes.
Okay.
This was a formative assessment, meaning it didn't directly impact their grades.
Ah, okay.
So the motivation to go above and beyond might not have been there.
Kind of like when you're assigned a textbook chapter for your own benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But still, even if they're taking the time to work together, wouldn't you expect them to want to get the most out of it?
You'd think so. And that leads us to another intriguing observation from the study.
Okay.
It turns out that often, the students got so caught up in memorizing the steps of a physical exam,
Okay.
like touch this, listen there,
Okay.
that they missed the bigger picture.
The why behind the how, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that the whole point of learning something new? Is to not just know how to do it, but why you're doing it that way.
Precisely. But
Yeah.
it's easy to see how, in a high-pressure field like medicine,
Right,
with so much information coming at you,
right.
that deeper understanding can sometimes get lost in the shuffle.
Totally.
It becomes about checking boxes rather than connecting dots.
And that can have real-world consequences.
Right.
Right, because a patient isn't going to present with symptoms in a neat step-by-step order.
Exactly.
They need doctors who can think critically, connect the dots, and go beyond just okay, did I do step 1, 2, 3?
Exactly. And that's where the role of an expert guide,
Yeah.
like in traditional faculty-led teaching, becomes really crucial. Because while the study found that, students generally enjoyed peer learning,
Yeah.
when it came to actual performance, those who had direct instruction from faculty scored higher than those who primarily did peer learning.
So does that mean peer learning is a bust for aspiring doctors?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
This isn't about declaring one method the winner and the other a failure.
Okay.
It's about understanding their strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Yeah, expert guidance seems crucial for mastering those technical aspects, but remember that positive feedback on peer
Yeah,
learning.
the comfort, the collaboration. Yeah.
These are valuable aspects of the learning process, too.
So maybe it's about finding the right balance.
Right.
The sweet spot where these two approaches can kind of like complement each other.
Absolutely. Imagine a system where students first receive a really solid grounding in the fundamentals, the why behind those techniques
Great.
from experienced faculty,
Yeah.
and then they can reinforce that learning,
Okay.
practice those skills, and gain confidence through those peer learning sessions.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been fascinating so far, but we've only scratched the surface of this research.
Right.
There's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore, and that is this intriguing discrepancy between how students graded each other and how the faculty graded them.
Right.
Get ready for some surprising insights when we come back. Okay, so we left off talking about how students and faculty had, well, slightly different takes on how those peer learning sessions were actually going.
Yeah, slightly different might be an understatement. Remember that checklist the faculty used to assess student performance?
Yeah.
Well, when students used that same checklist to assess each other,
Okay.
their scores were consistently higher than what the faculty observers gave.
Hold on. Are we saying that those med students were giving out, like, free A's like candy?
Right.
Maybe just tossing a few extra points to their buddies?
Well, not necessarily. Think
Yeah.
back to what we were discussing earlier about students getting caught up in the steps
Right.
rather than that deeper understanding.
That's just checking off boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might have been checking off each item on that checklist perfectly
Okay.
without truly grasping the nuances that the faculty,
Okay.
with their years of experience,
Right.
would pick up on.
So it's one thing to go through the motions, but another entirely to truly grasp, like, the subtle signs, the clinical significance behind it, right?
Exactly. It's like the difference between, watching someone bake a cake
Okay.
and actually understanding the science
Right. Yeah.
of how those ingredients interact
Right.
to create that final product.
Right. You've got to be able to do more than just follow a recipe,
Right.
especially when it comes to something as important as, medicine.
Precisely. And this highlights a really crucial point.
Okay.
While peer learning has its merits,
Yeah.
it's essential to acknowledge that peers, no matter how bright and motivated,
Right.
don't yet possess the same depth of knowledge and experience.
Right. They haven't been doing it for 20 years.
Exactly.
Right.
As seasoned professionals,
Makes sense. So where does that leave us with this whole peer learning thing?
it tells us that a balanced approach is really key.
Okay.
Imagine a medical school curriculum that strategically integrates both peer learning and expert guidance, playing to the strengths of each.
Okay, so start with a solid foundation from the experts,
Right.
and then reinforce and build upon that knowledge through, like, peer interaction and practice.
Exactly. The experts can provide that essential framework,
Okay.
the why behind the how,
Yeah.
while peer learning offers that supportive environment for practicing skills,
Yeah.
building confidence,
Right.
and even, learning from each other's mistakes.
Because let's face it, sometimes a fellow student who's just stumbled through that same tricky procedure
Right.
can offer insights that even the most seasoned professor might miss.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the heart of this whole deep dive.
Okay.
Peer learning, when done right,
Yeah.
and in conjunction with expert guidance,
Okay.
has the potential to be a really powerful tool
Okay.
in a medical student's arsenal.
Not a replacement for traditional teaching,
Right.
but a valuable complement to it.
Precisely. It's about harnessing the strengths of both approaches
Right.
to create this much richer, more well-rounded learning experience.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of peer learning in medical school, I think one thing is clear. While the debate continues on the absolute best way to train the next generation of medical professionals,
Sure.
this research really reminds us that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
The key is to keep exploring,
Keep questioning.
keep questioning, and keep striving for that perfect blend of, tradition and innovation that will best equip our future doctors to face the challenges ahead.
I love it.
And on that note, we hope this deep dive has given you plenty to ponder. And until next time, keep those brains engaged. And remember, whether you're a med student or just navigating the ups and downs of life, a little peer support can go a long way.